Curry will let it go for three, comes up short, offensive rebound, Curry again, and Curry hits a three! 1.5 remaining, James for the win, it's good! LeBron James at the buzzer! Cavaliers headed to the NBA Finals! The Golden State Warriors are in the NBA Finals for the first time in 40 years.
Thanks everybody for coming, really appreciate it. My name is James Yoder, I'm the CEO of Chat Sports. I'll be moderating tonight's panel. Amazing attendance tonight, so thanks so much for the interest in joining us. This is a historic event to have two sitting owners of a championship series in sports meet between game 1 and 2. I don't know if we've ever had that happen in the history of sports. So first off, a thanks to our designer Arnold and Drake for being in the Chat Sports studios last night, creating that awesome video after game 1. So thanks a lot to Arnold and Drake for providing the music. So we want to welcome folks from around the world who are joining us on YouTube. This is being streamed live across the world. So anyone watching, welcome. And we really regret that we weren't able to accommodate the thousands of requests to attend tonight. So those of you in the room, maybe you got lucky and knew somebody. So it's really awesome for us to see so many friends and colleagues in sports, media, venture capital, and technology in the room with us tonight. So we've got folks from CBS Sports and ESPN and Yahoo, technology leaders like Uber, Dropbox, Facebook in the room, and Twitter. We have our venture capital friends from Andreessen Horowitz and DFJ and Rothenberg Ventures and Graycroft with us. So thank you so much for joining us. Before we begin, I want to give a thank you to our sponsors. So we have 3 sponsors for tonight's event that you see their logos behind us. So first is my buddy Vasu, who's sitting up right over here with Crossover. So Crossover is a sports video analytics tool that's used by the Cavs. Vasu is a friend of Chat Sports, and we thank him for helping putting this event together tonight. Thanks a lot. And then I want to give an accurate shout out to the other one. So I'm actually going to read some conversations I had with the CEO. So thanks to Score. So Score is our premium sponsor. So this whole event is sponsored by Score tonight. Score rebalances the economics for sports teams and professional athletes worldwide, and they foster an engaging marketplace for sports. So Brian and team from Score, we're really grateful that you worked with us in this event, made everything happen. So thanks to them. Secondly, is Game On. Game On is they are third straight Minds Behind the Game they've sponsored. These guys are maybe our best friends in the tech community these days, so they're in sports as well. Game On is a social chat app for sports fans that lets you enjoy any game on earth with your friends. Choose your friends, choose your teams, and instantly receive video highlights, news, scores, and updates available on iOS and Android to follow the finals. So thanks so much to our sponsors. It really helped make this event happen by you guys pitching in. Lastly, thanks so much to the Chat Sports team. This event kind of just was announced 3 days ago, so we put everything together in 72 hours, so we're going on no sleep here. So most importantly, Brett, Susie, Arnold for working their butts off with me for the last 3 days, so thanks to you guys. Thanks to Mark Pincus and Zynga. I sent Mark an email 3 days ago and said, hey, Mark, we're in a pickle here. We need a spot. Help me out. And he helped us out and took care of us today. So thanks a lot to Mark and the team from Zenga that helped work with us to put this together. So before we get started and have the guys out, the Behind the Game hashtag, we expect everyone in the room to use it tonight when they have their photos and their quotes that they have from the panelists. We're going to give away some amazing prizes afterwards, so whoever puts the best photos with the best quotes, you can get some amazing gear from the panelists. So we've got autographed jerseys, some stars of the teams, we've got fat heads, and we've got some other swag from both the Cavs and the Warriors that they're going to give away tonight. So best tweet, and there's not that many people here, so best tweets, I think you got a 6% chance of winning right now. So go ahead and tweet away. Joe gave those to me, so I'm very sorry. I apologize. So I want to give you just a quick overview of what Chat Sports is, and I won't be long. So this event actually probably doesn't happen if it wasn't for what the Chat Sports product was. So my pain point as a sports fan, as I moved away around the country several times out of college, I couldn't follow my sports team. So working with some friends, we put together a content curator that brings together the content of the teams that I love. Maybe it's the Warriors, Cavs, Cleveland Indians, Michigan football, curates the best sources around the web into one feed, adds scores, stats, and live play-by-play, and then I can see what my friends read. So if you download the Chat Sports app on iPhone, I will guarantee you will delete your sports folder within 24 hours or your money back. Before we have Joe and Dan come out, I just want to say that I might be the most qualified person in the world to host this panel for one reason. I am from Cleveland. I grew up a Cavs fan. And anybody from Cleveland tonight? Hillary? Johnny Cavs? All right. And I watched more Cavs and Warriors games this year than I think any human alive. So my wife Ashley will tell you our 8 to 9:30 almost every night when I come home from work is Warriors games. And I was at the finals last night. It was a very bittersweet moment because I kind of gave up on the Cavs a little bit when LeBron left in 2010 and then had this jolt of energy last summer when he came back. So amazing opportunity for me personally. So two gentlemen that need no introduction are joining us on stage tonight for this historic event. So I would like to welcome and allow you to all join me in welcoming Cavs owner and the chairman and founder of Quicken Loans, Dan Gilbert, and Warriors owner and managing director at Kleiner Perkins, Joe Lacob, to the stage. All right, guys, welcome. Amazing game yesterday, huh? No, well, thanks. So amazing for I guess the every fan. So Joe, we were talking before this a little bit. LeBron, you good?
I'll have to help him out there, just like we did last night. So, try that now.
Is that on?
How about now?
Now it's on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, so Joe, talk to us about your emotions end of regulation and when the Cavs are taking shots and everything going through your mind.
You're talking about the last shot.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we played Cleveland last game. Was that last year or this year? I can't remember now. But LeBron took the last shot. I think it was last year, right?
It was.
No, it wouldn't have been Cleveland last year.
No, I'm talking about here.
It was
right in front of my seats, right in front of where I was sitting. Right on the angle so I could see it perfectly. He launched and made a game winner. Remember that game where you guys beat us at Oracle?
That's Miami. Must be Miami. When he
Yeah,
was
Miami. Oh, yeah. Miami.
Yeah.
Is that Miami?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, well.
You know.
But he was LeBron, though, still.
Yeah, he was definitely still around. Yeah.
So I got that part right.
Yeah.
Anyway, I remember he did that. It doesn't matter who he was playing. He made it, and he beat
Someone
us.
tweet that.
And so all I could think of was they have the last shot again, the different team. Yeah. And they're coming down here, and he's going right to the same spot, and he'll launch. I said, oh, not again. That's all I could think of was, not again. And of course he missed it. And then the follow-up
Yeah, I thought Shump
came
was going
really close.
It looked from my angle. I was on the other side. I really thought it was going in.
Yeah, it didn't though.
It wasn't. No, it did not.
So Dan, conversely, it doesn't go in. You guys got to a great start of the game. What are you thinking going into overtime?
Yeah, I was telling. I got a couple of my kids here at the end. We were talking. I was telling some other guys. We talk about the inches of life. How about the millimeters? So here's the difference. So 1 point, one way or the other way in a 48-minute game. One called one way, one free throw one way or the other way. There's a difference between us being 1-0 in Golden State against the best record team who lost 3 games at home, and our point guard is playing and he's fine and healthy and we're going to game 2, versus our point guard is out for the season and we're down 1-0. So it was disappointing, but I think, this team's tough. It's been resilient all year long. They love each other. They have a heart. I think it's going to be, still going to be a war. We'll see.
Great. Well, I'm looking forward to game 2. Being at the arena yesterday, it was just an incredible atmosphere. So congrats to you both. Maybe not.
Wait, you're looking forward to it?
As much. What's that?
Who are you rooting for?
Ooh, oh man, we talked
Wait,
about
where
this
are you from
a
again?
little bit. I am from Cleveland, guys. I am from Cleveland.
But you told me
Yeah.
you were rooting for the Warriors before.
Did I say that?
What did he tell you?
I did
Hold
not
on.
say that.
You
I did
said
not
you
say
told
that.
me the Cavs just.
Oh,
Wait,
my
hold on.
Yeah, it's
What?
true.
Wait, what? I think you guys are getting off topic here. We're talking about the minds behind the game. I have nothing to do with the game, nor behind it. Although those are good questions. So thanks for turning it back on me.
We're not going to answer any of your questions. You know that, right?
Hey, if we just make it casual and candid, that's fine with me too. So Dan, switch away from basketball. Just talk about your background. Walk us through. I was reading and researching for this panel. Started saving money by delivering pizzas in college, then built this financial empire with Quicken and Rock and DVP. So just talk us through your career and how you got to this point of being an owner of an NBA team in the finals.
Well, I got 60 seconds on that one. I'll go.
Bullet points.
Well, first of all, delivering pizzas was still a passion for me. I mean, I love delivering. I really did. I mean, this was before cell phones, before GPS. You had none of that, but you did have shortcuts, and that was big. So delivering pizzas for me was in all seriousness, I loved the sense of urgency of it. But I just was always sort of, I guess, entrepreneurial growing up. And one summer, I think it was after my last year of undergrad, somebody just said, hey, there's this thing called mortgage brokering, and you don't need a license. You need a license at that time, and believe it or not, you imagine that in mortgages, no license, anything. And so one summer I got shared office space in the mid-'80s, and just started sort of hustling mortgages and brokering them, and I, pretty much haven't done anything since, except in the last, X amount of years getting in other businesses. And then the basketball team became available 10 years ago now, and somebody brought us a deal. We'd made a bid for the Milwaukee Brewers about 4 months before, and then it didn't. They took another bid, another buyer, and Gordon Gunn, who still owns 15% of the Cavaliers, was the owner. He wanted a quick deal, and he saw we were from the Midwest, and he just, let's try to make a deal quick. And then we did it probably over a course of 5 weeks, and we woke up 5 weeks later, and I said, I was like, what the hell did we do? Why did we do this? We live in Detroit. This is in Cleveland, But it turned out to be obviously just an incredibly exciting, challenging decade.
Mm-hmm. And Joe, kind of the same question. From Massachusetts, minority owner of the Celtics a little bit. Lead us up to how you 5 years ago bought the Warriors and now let them do an NBA Finals.
What did you sell, you said, when you started out? Pizza?
Delivered pizza.
Delivered
yeah.
pizza.
Whole
I sold
delivery.
peanuts.
Yeah.
That's true. True story, actually. So, it depends which you like better, peanuts or pizza. But
yeah.
I started, actually, I did grow up. Yeah. How much commission did you make on yours?
Well, I used to get like $250 in cash at delivery plus tip.
We got 14% straight commission.
That's all. You got to sell a lot of peanuts, though.
You did have to sell a lot of peanuts. But I learned that peanuts was better than selling Cokes or anything like that because you could double stack it and you could sell more, you could throw them. Anyway, we could talk about that all night. Yeah. But the truth is, I started, in Massachusetts. I was a Celtics fan in the 60s. Growing up, a place called New Bedford, which was not a great place. I've only been back twice in all these years. Once to show my kids, and that was about it. But I started there. I was about 14 years old, listened to Celtics game on the radio. I became a fan. In fact, when I was 9 years old, this is a true story too, I went to a boys' club. And I remember going to that boys' club, and I had never seen a hardwood floor. I played basketball maybe as a kid, but outside, and I saw that hardwood floor, and I got really excited. Really, I don't know what it is. To this day, I see hardwood floor, and I get really excited. It sounds funny, but I never thought that I would ultimately have a house, living in Silicon Valley, and I'd build my own basketball hardwood floor in the backyard where my kids would grow up playing, and that I'd ultimately be building a big hardwood floor in San Francisco, new arena. So it is kind of a funny thing, infatuation with hardwood floor back in the day. And I was a Celtics fan. I moved to Southern California when I was 14. My dad got transferred, went to high school and college down there, sold peanuts.
Who do you sell peanuts to?
Anaheim Stadium.
So you just like get peanut? I don't even get it. Like, how do you sell peanut?
Well, I was a vendor. I was a vendor at the
You
ballpark.
were literally like one of those guys that were
Yeah,
just selling
yeah,
peanut like
a
that.
hawker. They call it a
Those
hawker.
guys make the consumer of peanuts make a mess at those games.
They do, but I didn't have to worry about that because I just tossed them one way and they tossed quarters back.
Okay.
That's all I did.
I got it.
And but anyway, I did that for 7 years actually, and I got to spend a lot of time around. I know this sounds funny, but it was my real infatuation with sports started there. I loved being around baseball team and sports, and I said someday I want to own a team. I had no right to believe that at the time. Wound up going to high school, college, paid my way through college on those peanuts, by the way, and wound up ultimately going to business school. I was a biology and chemistry major, so didn't know anything about business. Wound up going to business school ultimately up here, 1981. Had family, kids, they all raised here. And so 34 years I lived in the Bay Area and tried, once I made money over the years after being in venture capital, I was in biotech and then venture capital, started looking at teams to buy, baseball and basketball over the years, failed many times on a lot of them, and then the ultimate came up, which was the Warriors, which was the local team, and got into as people know, a relative bidding war with one of the richest people in the world, Larry Ellison, and somehow managed to win that. And here we are today, 5 years later.
At a price that seems like a deep discount at this point, right?
I don't know about deep discount, but it was a lot of money at the time, I can assure you. It was one of the largest prices ever paid. It turns out the NBA, who knew? It was a good investment.
Great. So, Dan, just for record, my goal in my career is to buy the Cavs from you someday. So just so we're clear.
So he is a Cavs fan.
My wife.
And
Yeah.
your wife- yeah, at
I don't
first
know
I
if
thought
necessarily
there was-
I'm not going to talk about the fandom, but the dream I think is to give back to Cleveland kind of thing.
I thought there was going to be competition for a minute, but there isn't. It's the same.
the
Unless,
same
of course,
team there.
you know. So,
So let's move.
you
So
know.
let's move quickly into investments. So Dan, 4 or 5 years ago, you took your family of companies and 10,000 plus employees and have now invested almost $2 billion in the city of Detroit. So tell me about your investment strategy, why Detroit, and what's going on there.
Sure. So I grew up. Well, first I was born in the city and lived there for the first X amount of years of my life. My father was born in Detroit. My father was in the military, and then he owned a bar. And my grandfather was born in Detroit. So it might even go further back than that, but I don't even know them. And they were all small businessmen in the city. One had a car wash, one had a bar. And you have to probably be about 7 or 8 years older than I am now to have real memories of what I had heard and what people my age and younger had heard from their parents, grandparents about the glory days of Detroit. And Detroit, for those you may not know this, it was pretty much the wealthiest city in the country from like the 20s to maybe up into the mid 60s. I mean, it was the center of the largest industry in America, if not the world. And there was talent, there was housing, there was museums, I mean everything. And then through what would take here hours and hours and hours of explanation, but then you had a city that went through literally decades and decades of mismanagement, poor leadership and decline, and obviously other forces associated with it. The auto industry helped bring it down. So, we had an option, or we had an opportunity. I think it was, 6, 7 years ago. Our leases were coming due in the suburbs. We were all over the Detroit suburbs, and we either could renew our leases, which was disjointed, being 4 or 5 miles apart. We could go to get a piece of vacant land and build a campus, like a Silicon Valley-like campus like you see around here. Or the third option was to go to Detroit and do two things, get people excited about the urban core, because we were first time in our history we started realizing kids, I say kids, but people in their 20s and even 30s coming out of the great universities, even University of Michigan, Michigan State, Wayne State, saying, I would love to work for your company, but I want to be in Chicago, New York. So we figured we had to be in an urban core anyway to get great talent. At the same time, we could help our great city come back, and now we've got 12,000 plus people there, and you can't find an apartment, and things are going pretty well overall, and I think we're just at the ground floor. That's a short version.
Yeah,
That's
great.
not a foretelling of what's going to happen in Silicon Valley, or is it?
Yeah.
50 years from
now. I'll tell you
Hope
what's crazy. People actually, there's articles that call Detroit was the Silicon Valley of its day. I think there are similarities and differences, but I would find that hard to believe if something like that happened here. And there's so many, when you get there, look, I lived in and around the city my whole life, but the last 5 years of literally being there and then driving the neighborhoods and looking at not only the buildings downtown, but obviously there's 78,000 homes we're in the process of taking down, blighted homes, 78,000 homes, 1,000 a month are coming down right now. In the United States of America, what I say to myself still to this day, walking by and looking, although it's been vastly improved and will keep being improved, is how did this happen in this country? How did this happen in this country? And, you know, you could write books on it. Books have been written on it.
Sure, great story. So, Joe, switching over to you, put on the venture capital hat. So we've got quite a few startup founders in this room at all levels of financing. So what does venture capitalist Joe Lacob look for in a startup founder, a company, and how has that changed from 25 years ago when you got started?
Well, you know, I think the truth is that there's something very magical in the water here. I've told my kids this as they were growing up. When you were choosing colleges, I used to tell them, you know, go look at all these different places. But you come back here, and there's just something that is, it's hard to say, but it's a cultural thing that is very encouraging of entrepreneurship. Even when you talk to kids that come out of places like Stanford, they're just a different breed. And I'm sure there have been other places in the world that are like that, but that's something about this place. So what do we look for? You know, I look for, and I've been doing this for a long time. I started at Kleiner Perkins in '86, and I haven't been there for the last 4 or 5 years, just finishing up and focusing on my second career. But I look for people that have an incredible drive, that are obviously very smart, that are willing to take chances and risk. Taking risk is not something that people do sometimes in other parts of the world. It's kind of surprising. You go to certain places in Europe or whatever, and they don't even think that way. So I think there's something about that. You want to look for people that are very aggressive, very smart, willing to take risk. Look for very big markets. I'm a guy that I'm not interested in the smaller things. It's got to be a very big idea, and you need to be early. Yep. You need to be, and that's a risk because sometimes you're too early. But those are the kinds of things that I look for, and sometimes those are things that are, to be ahead of the curve is not an easy thing to do.
So that's interesting, and that was one of the questions I was going to follow up with. Was I saw a video with you a year or two ago that you talked about being ahead of the curve. So what does that mean? Is that virtual reality? Is that something we've never heard of? What's ahead of the curve now?
Well,
you're out of the game a little bit, but
a little bit. But I would say virtual reality is certainly at the earliest stages. There's going to be a lot of technical improvements which are going to make it, and I think it's a very exciting area to invest. But the problem is, most venture firms are now investing in VR startups. Look how many there are. So to me, I still think it's early enough, but I wouldn't call that ahead of the curve. You really got to be thinking out of the box, and that's what some of the great companies do. Who would imagine some of the companies that we look at it? It seems so simple sometimes, like an Uber. I'm just citing one example, but it's not a simple. It's a simple concept. It's an application, but they got there before everybody else.
So Dan, switching back to you. So talk a little more about investments. So 2 companies that stood out to me when I looked at your portfolio were Crossover, given that's in sports analytics, and then Rocket Fiber, because it kind of reminds you what Google's trying to do in certain parts of the country. So those 2 companies in particular.
Yeah, Joe used the word culture before, and I couldn't agree more that whether you're inside of a company itself or it's the community, like you were speaking of the community, that culture drives everything, and we define culture as who you are, not what you do, but who you are. And Rocket Fiber, maybe you guys should raise your hand when you heard from Rocket Fiber. We
brought them with us.
We got our own. So here's the 3 or 4 guys. I think the 4th guy may not be here, but these guys working for Quicken Loans and Quicken Loans, by the way, Quicken Loans is a technology company. It just happens to do home loans. It really is. And these guys, I don't know, we may have 1,600 technology. We call technology people full time, and they just came up with ideas. We were investing in Detroit and trying to make not a Midwest version of Silicon Valley, but a Detroit version of technology startup excitement and leveraging all the talent and all the ideas that were in Detroit. And we were digging up trenches because we're putting in a rail line downtown. Believe it or not, the last city in the world that has had 1 million, well, it still does, but 1 million plus people in the metropolitan market that has no mass transportation. So for the first time, we're actually going to open that up next year, 2016. A lot of it privately funded, but these guys said, Google's putting in these fiber lines, Kansas City and all this. You guys all know about that. We can do it here in Detroit. And we said, all right, we'll go check it out further. And it had the kinds of things you're talking about, the drive, the ambition, being early, at least for Detroit, to put in these kinds. So we found out that the city of Detroit will approve a whole fiber network quicker than they'll let us change a sign, which is just weird. Like the sign, get in that line for the next, 19 months to change your sign. Oh, new whole fiber network line, no problem. Go dig the trenches, go ahead and put it in. So, it's incredible. We back them. They're going to end up with a piece of ownership of the whole thing, and it's exciting. So that's how that happened. And what do we talk? Crossover. Where's Vasu? Are you here, Vasu? I mean, Crossover is just this great technology company that's now, 3-4 years? 3-4 years old out of New York City, actually. We were introduced to Vasu, who's a great entrepreneur, and building a company out that allows, maybe I should put a microphone on you and let you do it for 30 seconds. I don't want to screw it up in front of you, that's for sure. But it basically allows you to, high school athletes, or high school teams, whether you're in college or whether you're in high school basketball or football primarily, and then others, instantaneously looking at highlights and stats overnight and being able, my son who's to the left of Vasu, who plays varsity high school basketball, I want to pick up Grant's 5 assists. Let me look at all his first quarter assists and look at the highlights immediately. I just, boom, it just cuts the video immediately and gives me all of his assists or all of his makes or all of his misses, and slice and dice data and video. It's really a phenomenal. So any high school parent or coach that you see, and how many high schools, Vasu, you have in your right now?
5,000.
We're in 5,000 high schools and growing, so very exciting business, those two.
Great. So quick hitters, guys. Questions, nothing to do with the topic at all. What kind of cell phone do you carry?
iPhone 6
6?
and 6 Plus.
Oh, you got 2.
One AT&T, one Verizon. I know that's weird, but
Not as weird as me. I'm bitextual, so I have both I have a.
I don't even know what that is, actually.
I'll tell you what it is. It's iPhone, and I have an iPhone 6 backup, and I have I'm gonna say the word, but because I like long emails at times in depth, I have my BlackBerry back, so I carry them both because my long emails, and plus search is way better on BlackBerry too. Like there's a whole search issue with
That's
iPhone.
really cool, but I carry an iPad too, also with me.
Where do you carry it?
Well, I left it in the car this time
Yeah.
because I figured, it
too
would be
big.
cool to carry it on stage.
How do you carry an iPad on you? Is it like a belt
Well, I
clip or
kind of,
something?
no, just like kind of slip it in the back, like a
Okay.
gun.
My dad does it. He like sticks things in his
Yeah.
back of his belt.
He's
It's
flat
really
out
strange.
making that up. You do not carry it anywhere.
I just want to have more devices than you did.
So, guys, how has technology changed sports throughout your lifetime, throughout your ownership of your teams? Just technology in general, how has it changed sports?
I mean, it's obviously changed so many things. The internet itself, I mean, just the basic concept of the internet, 20 years ago now. Actually, at our firm, we funded Netscape, to start many of these companies in the late 90s were one after the other. But just the whole idea that everybody is connected all the time. Sports is a community. And the fact that you can get real data, I mean, by the way, I liked your arena when I was there last time. You had actually really good use of data, like all real-time adjusted stats as you're sitting in the arena.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday. I was a little frustrated.
I don't blame you. I saw yours and I got really competitive about it.
Yeah.
I told Kirk, get to it.
We may not win the series, but we win that arena stat thing, man.
But we're going to have a new arena and it'll have all that stuff.
Yeah.
But
We'll have Steph Curry by that time, though. So.
oh boy, oh boy.
Yeah.
Is that tampering?
Yeah.
Anyway, I do think that there is just real time, everything is real time. And people are connected, and whether it's social networks about all this stuff, whether it's stats, or whether it's video, or all the different services, video now, and GIFs, and all this kind of stuff. You can just, so many things you can do. I think technology affects every aspect of all this.
Yeah, I'll tell you when it really hit me, and again, I don't mean to embarrass my boys here over it, but so NFL Sunday, I noticed this a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. So I flew home on a Sunday. It was like middle of the NFL Sunday, and they had combined like 15 friends over, and they're all watching the games, and it was either Lions or the Browns. I wanted to know the score, who won. So there's 15 kids who are intensely watching football, right, all afternoon, and I go, who won? Let's say it was the Browns. I'm not sure. I said, who won the Browns? And they all looked at me, they didn't. I go, what are you guys been watching football all day? They go, well, they all said, I don't know the score, but I can tell you, who has the most yards and who passed and run, because they're all playing their fantasy and they're watching the games and they're using their technology.
That's another example.
It's truly changed. It's changed, especially that generation coming. It's going to change. Like if you don't have technology embedded, it's not only just like an afterthought. It's going to be embedded in the entire experience. Of
Well, in the
sports.
uniforms, potentially.
Everything. Uniforms,
And,
arena,
right?
everything.
Everything about it. You can monitor real-time physiological information and so on. And then there's people like my son Kirk, who's sitting right here. When ever try to watch a game with him, it's a very frustrating experience. And it's like when you sit at home, I remember sitting in front of the TV and he's got his computer going and he's playing fantasy and all this. Okay, that's fine. But when you're sitting at the game, at a real live event, and you've got your phone, you're like this. What are you doing? Are you not watching the game? Are you not, like, you're supposed to be developing, looking at what talent we like and this and that? And of course, he's looking at the tweets, the real-time tweets. I said, who cares what other people are saying? Watch the game.
Well, so I basically, guys complain, I monitor the Cavs and our tweets during the game. I try never, the whistle to whistle or buzzer to buzzer, I have a promise to myself, I will not, so timeouts, even free throw, front end of a free throw, we'll look at it. But so like a guy the other day is complaining that the cup holder was broke in his seat, right? I literally forwarded to our guy this guy must think it's, within, 6 minutes, there's a guy up on the Loudville, our third deck, fixing his cup holder because he tweeted out, put me and the Cavs on it, that his cup holder was broke. I mean, what you learn from your customers, whether it's sports or anything, that to me is the best part of the whole social and mobile. You have your tentacles, if you use it right, you can get that real live customer feeling you can't get just from sitting in an ivory tower somewhere.
That's pretty good. I can't get the pothole fixed on the 66th Street entrance to Oakland's arena.
You should come and drive Michigan roads. For the first time ever, they did a whole poll. There were more potholes than assholes on the road last year. Sorry, true.
So switching over to the other side of game one, Joe, the whole world knows you sat next to Rihanna last night, which I'm sure you gave her the seats right next to you. On
No, I
purpose,
did
but
not.
I want to know,
Sort of.
other than your kids, who'd you sit next to, Dan? Did they sit you next to like Mayweather, or who'd they sit next to?
I was next to my partner in the Cavs, he's the guy, I don't know, he's just an interesting guy. Not as interesting as Rihanna, let's put it that way.
No, that doesn't sound.
Yeah.
I want to clarify something. I did not give her the seats. Everyone's talking about this on radio today. I was driving around the city, going to different meetings. She bought seats, down, paid a lot of money for them, and she can root for whoever she wants, right? But I thought I'd be a nice guy, and I took my two kids who get to go to a lot of games, and I booted them down to the end of the court and moved her next to me. I said, hey, sit next to the owner.
Do the same thing.
It's a nice thing to do.
What did she do wrong? Why did she?
She's rooting for LeBron the whole game.
No, I mean, what did she do wrong that you made her sit next to you?
Well, yeah, exactly. I thought I was being friendly. But anyway, she was rooting for LeBron the whole game, so finally I was getting irritated, and I said, I am the owner of the Warriors. And, which I had told her. She didn't care, she just kept going, and so finally, I just said, that's it, and I moved a couple seats down. And everyone has it that I moved my fiance next to her because she got upset that I was sitting next to Rihanna, which is not true.
Did you just like get in her face afterwards after you won, like in your face or not?
No, I didn't want to do that.
That would be funny.
Thought about it.
You probably wanted to do it, right?
Thought about it.
So, guys, guilty pleasure on your iPhone. When you find yourself bored, if that's ever, for guys as busy as you, what's the app? What's the thing you're doing on your iPhone?
I do mixed booth. Mixed booth, you take two people, mix them together.
I don't know if I know that one.
No, check it out. It's unreal. In fact,
Is that like Match.com? What is that?
no.
We get a mixed booth of Dan and Joe
No,
right
you
now.
can
We'll
do
get on the
that.
big screen. I swear to you, we'll get on the big
No,
screen right now.
the truth of it, like, we do this thing called business basketball once a year, actually based on an NBA collective bargaining agreement. You have to do a business discussion with the players, literally. And we've had several meetings and stuff. We tour them through Detroit now. But I started off with mixed booth, like I mixed Kyrie with LeBron, or with a coach with the GM, and it's unbelievable.
This is how you build your team?
It's unreal. Yeah, it's it. Well, yeah. We're gonna have Kyrie with Deladova, or what?
Maybe the fantasy stuff really is important.
Check it out. That's you said what we
Yeah, that's good. I gotta check that out. That's
you'll
funny. I'm
enjoy
gonna
it.
take photos from this event and do that tonight. And Joe?
I'm pretty boring, I guess, about apps and whatever. I mean, I basically have 3 or 4 things that it's like addictive and that I'm on all the time. Hoops Hype, which of course all of us in the league always do. Hoops Hype is a rumor thing. It's mostly basketball and sports stuff, to be honest. And I look at Warriors World.
Yep.
Some of this, I love to read this stuff. I like to see what people are talking
I
about.
only use chat sports. I don't know what that other thing is.
Yeah.
That's
I'm going to look at that from now on.
Dan is top 10 Cavs user on Chat Sports. I didn't see you on the list for the Warriors.
Because it's a Cleveland company.
Yeah. We're out here. Susie from the back corner, right? So going back to the seats, I just want to make it clear we're fighting for my fanhood. I don't have tickets to Game 2. Throwing that out there. Or Game 3 in Cleveland. I'll fly back for it, Dan.
Rihanna might not be using her seats.
That's what I'm saying. I
And
don't
maybe
have that kind
she's-
of cash, but if you front me, I'll get you back next year.
How much were did they cross trades on StubHub? Did they announce what the seats went for?
Well,
Secondary market?
so the stat I saw yesterday was it was like 14 or 15 was the average through the entire arena on StubHub, which is up from 658 from Thunder Heat, which is the highest. So 2.5x higher than any
14 or
game
1,500
per seat. If you
But
take
the front row, they were
top.
at something,
60?
right? They were asking crazy amounts. I didn't see if anything traded.
120? Okay.
120
That's
what?
amazing.
120,000.
20,000 a seat.
That traded actually? Or-
Courtside, it's listed.
yeah, that's
Wow.
that's insanity.
That's pretty good.
It's a lot of money. I don't think Rihanna paid quite that, so maybe that's why, I don't know.
What'd you pay?
I think she paid, I don't know for sure because it wasn't through us, but I think it was around $50K per seat.
Whoa.
It's pretty amazing.
Not bad. All right, so guys, we're getting close to the end. I did want to give all the great folks in the opportunity, the audience, the opportunity to ask questions. So we've got a few minutes here, and then maybe if you have time, we can take one or two from Twitter. So hands for questions. Go ahead.
Hi, Joe, can we hear your peanut talk?
My peanut. Oh. Okay. It's been a long time since I've done this. Peanuts, peanuts here, peanuts, peanuts, peanuts.
Amazing. I don't think All right, who else has a question? Any hands? Go ahead.
Since we just touched on tickets in the secondary market, can you talk about that trade-off and how it works with season ticket holders where you obviously price beneath what you could hit in the market and how those pricing decisions come into play?
No, we can't talk about that.
Really quick, name and company you're from.
I'm Colin Weaver and I'm with OSKR.
Okay.
We Veritix flash seats. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that's our ticketing company that we actually started in Cleveland, and now 5 NBA teams have it. We do the NCAA Final Four, several colleges. We have the Detroit Lions. But a good secondary market will actually, people at first get confused because they think that teams get confused, I should say. They think, okay, well, if we have this secondary market, allow our tickets to trade, then our season ticket holders won't buy, they'll just go on. But it's the opposite. When somebody knows there's a liquid secondary market, they're more apt to buy the primary market because they know they can get rid of it. And they can move those tickets very quickly digitally. So, I mean, I think that, teams are crazy, franchises, and it's good for their fans too. When you do it right in one, a lot of times people think, well, if you have it on one place, you're sort of monopolizing. I think it's the actual opposite. If it's a fair, visible, great marketplace, like in other words, you wouldn't want your stock to be on 27 different exchanges. You'd have to get 27 different prices. As long as it's on one, in the walls of one place, but it's a completely fair, visible, showing bids, showing offers, like Veritix is, and you're willing to cross it, and now it's no longer sort of this stuff where because a buyer or seller, particularly a buyer, never knows they're getting ripped off. Like, what did the last two trade at? I could have traded at 50%, but no, you don't know. So I think it works for I think a visible, liquid secondary market that's fair is
I would
the
add
best way
one
for
thing
everybody.
to that discussion, which we think is the most important element of it, which is, and I'm not criticizing any secondary market companies or anything like that. However, we have this is just a fact. At every game, we have people come up to our ticket booth, at our arena, and there's like, on average, about 30 a game where they've bought tickets off of a secondary market site, and they are fake.
Yeah, that's what solves it, our thing.
Right, and so that's why we started, to ramp up our site, whereas we guarantee that those are, in fact, the seats. If you're spending a lot of money for a ticket and it's not legit, that's the single biggest problem. Yeah. Yes, there's questions about accurate pricing and all that, certainly, but in a marketplace, that gets taken care of.
Yeah, so when there's one, it's sort of like a share of stock. It only is going to be in one. It's guarded by the NASDAQ or the New York Stock Exchange. Just in this example, let's say Veritix or whatever site that you would have it on, it's moved digitally. So it's never moved paper. It's just moved digitally. I move it from my name to your name with 1 minute to go. If you know people across town that you want to get tickets to because you couldn't go to a game, instead of letting them go, you just move it into their name and they put their license or credit card at the gate and they print the stubs and give it to you. It solves for that too, which is, you're right, it's a big problem.
And then next question is say your name and company so we know. Dylan, good? Or I know your name, so.
Dylan, Rothenberg Ventures. You've asked these guys a lot of tough questions, answered them all. You're from Cleveland, you live in the Bay Area.
Who you rooting for? Just answer the question.
This is not about me, but I'll tell you what. There's only two people who know the answer to this legitimately. So one is your boss who took me to the game last night, Mike at Rothenberg Ventures. The other one's Hillary over there. She knows, and maybe some friends and family. But
Your
people
wife
at the
doesn't,
game
you know?
So Hillary,
You can tell me
I
later.
want it locked up back there, right? So I'm gonna just keep it with I'm just a sports fan. It's about these guys. John, go
Who
ahead.
would sell out their hometown? You're not going to see.
I wouldn't
We
do
all
that.
know who he's going to. Come on.
John Cobb's apartment list. Question for Dan. News broke on Chat Sports and went viral about Tyrese kneecap being broken, and clearly that's going to change the game plan
Yep.
for the Cavaliers. What does that mean for you as the owner?
Yeah,
What do you think the strategy is going to be going forward?
obviously, great question. Obviously, very, very disappointing, and disappointing for him. I mean, you feel terrible for him. He was fighting this injury thing the whole last whatever it's been since the playoffs started, maybe even a little bit before. And this injury literally has nothing to do with to his knee that was strained and hurt during the earlier rounds of the playoffs. And so it's disappointing. On the other hand, this team, we have fought adversity the entire year. So, when you talk about injuries that we had early on, and then Kevin Love going down in the Boston series, and now this, and there's been a couple other injuries on our team. We'll see. We've responded every single time. Obviously, Golden State's a better team than the teams that we played, but there's something about this team that they just seem to rise to the occasion. So it's just like Ohio State. It's crazy. I don't mean to scare you, but it's like Ohio State, right? One quarterback goes down, next man up. Next quarterback goes down, next man up. Well, we're from Cleveland, Ohio. Kevin Love down, next man up. Kyrie down, next man up. Who knows? So I just wouldn't want to be Golden State and lose to when two of the three of the best players are out. That's just gonna be a lot of pressure. So no, I
don't
obviously
know.
Golden State's a great, really.
No, I
they've done a
actually,
great job.
I'll be in all seriousness. I
Yeah.
was very saddened to hear that today.
Yeah.
Because first of all, he's a great kid, and we want to play you guys at full strength. So, but I'm sure that you have a lot of good players, and someone will step up. Teams have a way of doing that. Told you that in the hallway earlier.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can let our guard down just because somebody else got injured.
The biggest shame is we lose maybe the two best dribblers in history facing each other in one finals. I mean, just watching those guys dribble is amazing. So sad in general. Questions? Go ahead, right there.
So, Michelle Lagani, Great Rock Partners. With premiums like HBO spinning up independent sub services, can you guys talk about the importance of sports and NBA rights on the future of cable?
Let me respond, just make sure the TVs and everything here. So the question was that you wanted to know about the rights of future of cable? Okay, cool.
How NBA and sports rights impact the future of cable?
Okay.
I mean, look, this has been talked about for a number of years, and there are possibilities. People have speculated that some of these things may break down over time in a la carte services and so on and so on. It's very hard to know how all that's going to happen or whether it happens. I think there's a lot going on in sports, even beyond just those cable rights and things like that. And that is, just what we're talking about before, new technologies, and whether it be everything from Twitter or, video technologies or virtual reality. I think you're going to see a lot of different, look at VR. That's a really interesting case example. We had a test case we ran at our arena recently where we broadcasted internally on VR, and it was basically cameras at courtside. And it was unbelievable. It was sitting as though you're sitting in a courtside seat. And this camera, you can turn your head. Obviously, got to change. It's got to be a little better. You've got this thing on your head, which is cell phone based in this case, and you're looking like this, and you can see as though you're sitting in your seat, you're watching that game. That is an unbelievable technology. Think about it improving quickly over the next year or 2 years, and I think that has a chance to revolutionize the way people at other locations can watch a game. How is that, however, going to be looked at by all the rights issues? And I don't know the answers to all that. I don't think anybody does at this point. But at some point, there's going to be some sort of figuring out of all that, and it could change a lot in terms of the way we watch sports.
So you think about, that exact situation, and I've seen a couple of tests of those as well. Think about unlimited amount of courtside seats that you really are selling, or to Cleveland fans. Let's say Cleveland fans are all over the world, or Warrior fans all over the world. You literally can buy the game, and literally, like, you're sitting at, on the baseline, or sitting, right there on the bench next to the players. I mean, that has unlimited amounts.
It's stunning.
And so the technology, but one other thing, television in general. So the last sort of the last bastion of the networks and cable is live sports, because everything else now is just on demand, which is the reason that the rights fees, NBA case, they've almost tripled here since the last contract, and they keep going up because that's the last thing these networks really have an advantage of, because you don't want to watch a game after you know the score and all that, why, and so that becomes very important to the leagues and the networks. I think that the TNTs of the world and ESPNs, how they actually package and deliver the same content is huge. Like, you look at Charles Barkley and the TNT crew and what they do. That's value. That to me is going to be the huge value add. How they package and deliver that content, and that may be worth all of it. So,
Snap decision. What do we charge for courtside seats and a VR headset? To the finals. $10, 50, 100.
I have no idea at this
Any
point. I don't
thoughts?
know.
I think you raised a good point earlier. It depends on the rights of. We don't even, in some cases, because new technology comes, the league doesn't even know what they even sold or didn't sell. In other words, did they sell rights to this when this didn't exist before?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that has to be determined there first.
I really didn't take that question because I didn't want to be fined by the NBA for saying something I shouldn't have said. But I'm glad you said something.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a question, maybe one or two more. Wilson, go ahead.
Wilson, Teamwork Online. This is for both Joe and Dan. I've seen a lot of stuff on Twitter about you guys flying your teams out to the games. Oh, nice mic. Thank you. The question why I wanted to ask you is, in running a successful organization, if you had to pick one, what do you think is more pivotal? Having a really successful product on the court, or a really successful business staff to sell that product?
I think they're both really, really important. I think both of our organizations are doing something that I think is pretty remarkable. We're flying our entire organizations across to the other city to watch a game. I think that's a cultural thing more than anything else. And I've learned a long time ago in the venture capital industry that the most important thing you could do is provide free food. Everyone loves free food. So always have lunches all the time. Well, now we're going beyond free food, airplane flights. But the truth is the culture and the building of an organization, this has been one of the hardest things I've ever done. Because it is, even though it's not that big of a business to turn the Warriors around, it's all about the basketball team, which we've managed to turn around pretty well over the last few years, the business side, and then a new arena, which is really all about real estate and other lines of revenue. Altogether, there's something undermining all of that, which is a 24/7, 365 mentality, a tremendous passion for the business, of being all partners, and a transparency, so that we're all part of it, we all feel part of it. And doing things like flying everybody to the other, we're all on one team, everyone in that organization, everyone. And I know Dan runs a very similar organization. Those are really good organizations, whether they're in sports teams or whether they're in tech companies.
And nothing kills organizations worse. I know it sounds a little cliche, but the silos of organizations. And Joe and myself actually were discussing before we came in here how traditionally, and still probably the majority of the NBA, I don't know if you guys even know this, because I didn't even know this till we bought the team and got inside. There's like this wall up between business and basketball, a lot of it intentionally. Like, I thought they were kidding when they were sort of explaining this to me. I thought it was just, it's bizarre almost, but for whatever reason, there's this, we're not dealing with the business side and basketball sides, but nothing could be worse, I think. I think both sides can help each other tremendously, and I think the new wave of owners are going to, most of them think the way we're talking about.
I agree, and I tell you, one of the first things, there's a little story, it's kind of fun. First things I did when we bought the team, November 12th of 2010, we closed. Walked in the offices, and they were in downtown Oakland, and I looked around and I said, walls, a lot of walls, no glass, dark, bad lighting. First thing we're doing, all those walls come out between offices, and they're all glass walls. These people freaked out. I mean, no, people could see our stuff and whatever. And I said,
What's so great about your stuff?
Yeah, what's so great? I mean, what are you hiding? What are you hiding?
Right.
I mean, so we put glass walls throughout the building, and these people, I mean, people fought. They said, well, can I put shades on the inside of that thing and come down, louvers? No.
Yeah.
And so that kind of transparency was symbolic to the organization, I thought. And in fact, that's the way, it's probably, to me, it's the first thing we did, and it's transcended itself all the way through 5 years later.
You even see this on the metrics side of basketball. There's a lot of teams doing metrics and going into deep analytics and stuff, but that's one thing. Curating those metrics, packaging in them, so the coaching staff and players actually, A, do they even receive it? Do they even get it? B, is it put in a format that is going to help them change decision making and changing? Forget whether there's sort of like open to it. That's like the third step. And so, there's a lot of these kind of nuances, and culture drives, as you guys know, I mean, culture drives everything. It drives every single thing that happens.
I agree.
So I hate to stop things there, but Joe has a hard stop now. He's got an event that he's actually going to be late to make time for us. So we have a hard stop now. So I do ask everyone to remain seated. The event is not over yet. We just need to get Joe out here. We're going to announce the Twitter winners, and then we're going to kind of
So the real fun starts in a little bit.
Just one-on-one with Dan. So
Okay.
Joe, thank you so much for joining us. This is really a historic event. We researched the heck out of it, and this has actually never happened maybe in sports history that we could find two owners of teams.
Thank you. Thank you very much, guys. No comment. I don't like to get in too much trouble.
All right, let me tell you a secret about Joe.
Wait, what's his secret? Weren't you?
He picked the other guy. Yeah. All right, so quick winners really quick. So the Chat Sports team, both here and some of our remote folks, picked some winners of the event. So here we go. So let's see. We have an autographed jersey. First pick by either Steph or LeBron goes to Jackie Cartwright, who asked, Joe, can we hear your peanut call, #behind the game? So Jackie, just come see me afterwards. You can pick your choice. Now, the second person gets whatever she doesn't choose, which is the other one of those jerseys. So Colin Williams Weaver, at @candid_Colin, who is the moderator rooting for anyways, #Warriors Ground, #Cleveland Grown, #behind the game at Chat Sports. So Colin, where you at? Ah, right behind there. Okay, so you guys are right up the middle. Great. So we have two fatheads. So Vishal Lugwani from Graycroft, I know him actually, was picked, and it is just at Chat Sports, mixed booth, #behind the game. All right, I guess that one won. Vishal, throw your hand up, tell everybody who you are. Oh, was it? Okay. Oh my God, I'm sorry, I didn't see that. There is a photo of Dan and Joe
Did you do the mixed booth?
up. Please check.
That's not good for anybody.
Please check the Chat Sports Twitter account or Vishal's because we retweeted that. That is an amazing picture I'm looking at right here on this. So Vishal, come up and see me for a fathead, courtesy of Dan. Dan, who owns Fathead?
Well, you know, we sort of. The Fathead's located in Detroit, Michigan.
All right. And then lastly is Danny Dudek, who's actually from Zenga. She's the CCO, which is the Warriors owner, Joe Lacob. I moved seats last night away from Rihanna because she was cheering for King James. #DubNation, #behind the game. So those are our winners, those four. So if you guys can come see me up here. Now I'd like to ask any credentialed media, please stay in the room. Everyone else, we're going to do up to another hour and a half of drinks and networking afterwards. Dan's going to stick around for some questions from media only after this. So anyone who's not credentialed, please exit time, and then the Cavs organization will join us out there in just a bit. So thank you very much, and give Dan a round of applause.
No, thank you.
Very good. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're doing a nice job.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Just set it down there. Don't set it on the trophy.
Is this a real one?
Yeah. It's funny, I called in.